And we're live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of the San Diego Historical Games Convention virtual convention, the first time ever going virtual online. I'm Moe from Moe's Game Table, and joining me is Harold Buchanan, the runner, the baby, the father, I should say, not the baby. This is his baby, the father of this convention. And joining us also is Uwe Eichert from Academy Games. Hey, guys. How's it going?
Doing great, Mo. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
So day 2 is in the books. How'd everything go for you today, Harold? I know you've had a really busy day again.
Yeah, it was good. We started at 8 a.m. with some coffee and had just a ton of people in and cycling through, getting ready for their days. A lot of great war game talk, which was the best part, right? The thing that we all miss from the conventions is hanging out with our friends and talking about games. So we spend a lot of time talking about games and then just went about our business. A lot of great events on today, everything from Mike Berticelli running Tank Duel, Cole Worley was running Oath, and Volko Runka with his coin clinics. I think he was running Wellington today and something else. I don't recall what it was. Mark Herman ran Versailles to a huge audience. So we had a good time with that. And then we had a little Harold on Games segment a couple hours ago and had Mark Herman and John Butterfield, and they talked about SPI and the old days, which was fun and great to get those two guys together and talk. And then, you know, as a topper, we got the man Uwe Eichert here to tell us about Academy Games and what he's been up to, and so very exciting to see you, Uwe.
I feel like I'm part of a bad movie. You've got Moe over here in the situation room with all the things going, and you're the good guy with the white background.
White, yes.
Yeah, I am in my little dark den.
With the evil German accent going.
We will see, Harold, where you find us.
That's right. That's right. What kind of plotting have you been up to in your evil den?
Well, today I also ran with my border collies. So didn't do one war game, and I even skipped tonight our Age of Empires 6-man killer games online.
Mm.
Wow.
So anybody who's not tried Age of Empire, the deluxe version is on sale on Steam today for $13.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Nice.
It's not our game. It's just we're fans.
Yeah.
So you guys play 6-player free for all?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's we're all real gamers and we love stuff, and it's just the total evilness of it, you know?
Yeah. No, if 2 players was good, 6 players has to be better.
Yeah. And you know, what's important when you play a game, it's not if you win or lose. It's how bad you screw over somebody else.
Yes.
Or how about you screw up rules?
No. Because that
a couple of years ago, we played Akusa, and you changed the rules at the very end of the game. If you remember that at BGG a few years ago.
Interesting.
That was after probably about a fifth of whiskey, though. But
was that a strategic rule change, or
it was a strategic? You're about to lose, and you went ahead and just went through all of Japan.
Enough, it benefited you. Yes,
it was great.
You mean I found the nuclear bomb button?
Kind of, sort of. For medieval Japan, it was awesome.
That's great.
Good times. Good times.
So Uwe, you're going to do some events tomorrow at the con. At the online con. You've done some things before online, right? You did the Armchair Dragoons had a convention. You ran a few things there. Yes. And interestingly enough, you're not using the old school standby Vassal. You're using what is it, Tabletopia?
Tabletopia, yes, sir.
Yeah.
To me, Vassal's like, it's like we now working on DOS here. It's I think.
Well, tell me what are the pluses for Tabletopia?
Well, Tabletopia, if Tabletopia, I just have to send a link to anybody. You click on the link, and you're in this beautiful 3D fully functioning game environment. And I really appreciate it. And it's also very easy to put together. You can invite people anywhere. They don't need links. You can give a link, like when I'm working on missions. I can give the link to 2 people. I can just go on Facebook or Consum World or whatever and say, hey, you guys want to play? Here's the link. Go ahead. And they can just both log in, don't have to be members of Tabletopia, and can play each other.
Wow.
So it's without a lot of the drum dran, you have a room, they click on it, they're in the room, they see each other, they can enter the game right then there, they can invite other people. So that's why I really like Tabletopia, more so than even Tabletop Simulator.
Mm-hmm. Is it a rules enforced environment?
I don't know.
No, from
What
the
do you
best of
mean
my
by that?
knowledge, it's not. Yeah.
So I could screw up something. I could move something 7 hexes instead of 4 and it wouldn't tell me that.
Yes, correct.
Right, which is Vassal, right? Vassal's like that. So I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just curious.
Yeah, there's no AI to it.
Yeah, Tabletop Simulator is the same way, except if you have like scripts, then if you can do that, then you can kind of control the environment, which is nice. That's the next step that we have to do with tabletop games, is have it where it can enforce the rules, which would be a nice step up.
And do you have somebody that programs it for you or puts it together?
Why do you ask that? Here, let me look it up here real quick.
I don't need to know it. So do you do it yourself?
No.
Okay.
You know what? Luckily, I have Jim and some of the other guys. They do it for me just because they're so good at it. And that just allows me to concentrate on other things.
No, that's cool.
Because there's so many good Netflix series right now I have to watch.
Yes.
That, I'm too busy to do all that work crap.
That's great. Do you have a view on what games that you all want to put on Tabletopia? Or, how do you think about that and the impact on sales and all that stuff?
Well, right now, in the publishing business, for us at least, it's much more difficult. It's much more difficult to do a lot of the play testing, things like that, because we do get so much more synergy going when we're face-to-face in a group. Because no matter what you're doing, especially in a more involved game, where it does help seeing the entire overview of the playing field, to see the resources, what have you in front of you, what your opponents have, etc. I think so much easier than in these computer type of simulations, having to scroll and pan and then, click on something and hit the tab key to make it large so you can read it and see it. It does make the play testing, the game development, I think, more difficult. And it also takes away from a lot of the synergy that we have when we're together as a group. Mm-hmm. So we get together with 4 people to test a game, a 2 to 4 player game. And to me, that is a biggie that's missing. But we have no choice. So we are doing the play testing online, but it is slowing things down quite a bit. And from a publishing standpoint, those are one of the major factors right now that we're facing. I think that a lot of publishers are facing, that they're trying to overcome the hurdles and everything. Right. So even though our sales are higher, we're about 400% up in sales right now for the year, and that's phenomenal. That's our direct sales, but our worldwide sales are down in comparison. The only difference is because our direct sales are up, we're getting 5% or 5 times more profits coming in as compared to going through wholesale. So from that standpoint, it's been very difficult. And a lot of my time is spent now, instead of being able to concentrate on things I want to concentrate, it's worrying about fulfillment and all of a sudden hearing, oh, we've got a Kickstarter fulfill or pre-order fulfill, and all of a sudden all the games from Chile are being shipped back after we spent all this money to go there because they're closing their borders or COVID shipping penalties. And then the strictness is going on. So that's been giving us quite a few headaches.
Right. Well, I'm not a math guy, but that 5 times profit sounds pretty good.
Yeah, but the 5 times profit is balancing against fewer games being distributed because even like I just had an order for several hundred games going to England, and because some shipping internal things right now that we have to change with the EU issues, they're delaying it, and now we have to do the paperwork and everything else, and that's been quite a challenge. And same with Amazon DA and everything with the tax requirements. And so, here I'm spending now again almost a day just trying to wade my way through that, which is a frustrating thing.
Right.
But other than that, it's
it's going fine. Yeah. Well, exactly. We're rooting for you, Ube. So if there's anything we can do, some publishers won't.
Since you did just now, give us your time and everything. We have it on. It's live, right? So
that's right. No,
thank you. We'll take the free labor.
In California, that's not a signed contract, so I can get out.
Oh, I forget California.
Yeah, California. Right. Don't forget California. Protects us from the evil corporations. What about some companies won't put their games on systems at all. Some companies won't allow their games to be on Vassal or Tabletopia or Tabletop Simulator at all for fear that it hurts sales. You clearly don't share that view.
Well, we're not putting the entire game up. We're putting test missions up, and we're only giving it to a select group. We don't put it out and say, here, anybody you want to go in, or we do it, but then we will take it off after a while.
Right.
I don't mind really because especially Vassal, I couldn't name off my hand how many people use Vassal anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't, and the people who do use Vassal, they'll still buy the board game. Yeah. So I don't think there's a real issue there. For us, why we don't really push it is that to put the effort and the time into it for what are the returns to the company? Yeah. And it all comes back down to we as a company have to pay the salaries of all our employees. So we do give away a lot of stuff for free in support of games, but the players have to also understand that they have to pay something to keep our team to be able to continue doing what they're doing.
Right. No, that's fair. That's fair. Can I change directions on you for a minute?
Sure.
You've got a couple of interesting pieces of art behind you. I wonder if you'd give us a tour of your. Can you give us a tour of your living room or your family room there?
Oh, it's really messy right now, but
just a couple of things. What's behind you, and how do you define that?
Well, that's a bust of a Kalhaya, who is from my mother's side, and my grandfather did that bust. He was a sculptor.
Oh, that's cool.
And well, he was really a mathematician and engineer, and that's why my mother was born in Tehran, Iran, during World War II. He was built up a university, German university, with some other Germans for the Iranians for engineering, and so he was phenomenal. And Kalhaya, of course, from our Haya side. That's where my von Rosenfeld, our full name, Huweike von Rosenfeld. But and then of course I love we got stuff, and I'm also very much into marquetry. This is wooden inlaid artwork, and so I love that. It's all from the Alsace-Lorraine area in I was going to say Germany, but it's now France. At the time, it was part of Germany. A lot of these were purchased by my my grandmother's parents in like the 1890s. So we have all over. I kind of collect them over the years.
Yeah, very cool.
That and good, nice bronze. I love good bronze statues. There's a Vasmus. It's too dark, probably. So,
well, that's great.
My guitars and fiddles and everything. So,
wait a minute. You play guitar?
Oh yeah. I play guitar, and my main instruments in the bands and everything is a fiddle. So
the bands. That means you're in a band?
Currently, I'm not because of the COVID-19 issue. But
you weren't kicked out of the band for any shenanigans.
Well, no, actually, I used to play in an Irish band.
Oh, very cool.
I was the schmuck they put between the guy from Belfast on one side and the other guy from Southern Ireland on the other side.
Oh.
Because they
figured the demarcation line.
Peaceful guy in the band to keep them all apart.
Right.
And but I play mainly. I played trumpet, jazz for years, but I love some good swing and good old jazz and Stephen Grappelli, Django Reinhardt.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, but not an Opa band of. They're in Germantown. You don't live far from Germantown in Columbus, right?
Well, even more so up in Toledo. Donnerschwab and all that. They're crazy. I mean, they're doing the dances and the lederhosen and everything, and it's pretty crazy, So I think I've been in my my Borat bathing suit more than in the German lederhosen,
That's too much information, Uwe.
That's nice.
That's very nice. Oh, that's horrible.
James was asking, have you ever played with Stuka Joe or Duce? And I was just thinking, hey, we should get a Grognard band going together, because Harold was playing the guitar earlier. He's saying Harold on guitar was the joke. And I said, I want to hear Harold on metal. So we could do a whole band with all the grogs we got that play instruments.
My son is right now heavy into the weirdest. He plays guitar and he's doing the weirdest Metallica on every other day. He's saying, Dad, man, check out this, this metal band and all that. I'm like, I don't really like metal. He says, you don't understand. There's so many different types of metal, this cool, fusion jazzy stuff. And I'm like, okay.
That's great. That's great. So, there you go. You got a question. Mo, do you want to?
Yeah, James was asking, how is France Conflict of Heroes coming along? Maps look great. Last time he saw it on No Enemies Here.
Thanks, James, for putting on the pressure. I really appreciate it.
No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, France is coming along a lot faster than our Gettysburg game. Thank you very much. No,
you just brought up the Gettysburg game, by the way.
Gettysburg game. So when's the Bulge game coming?
I'm not going to know. We're actually making good progress on that also. I've learned now I'm not going to discuss what games we're working on until we're getting almost ready to ship. So even France 1940, we even haven't even put it up into pre-order, because we're putting it out on pre-order stuff as soon as the files are going to the printer. But France 1940 is coming along incredibly. And if I hadn't fallen asleep here and I would have still been at work, I had all the pictures, because the people are going to be pre-ordering for France 1940 are also going to get the Seelöwe expansion. The what if Germany had invaded England or the United Kingdom. I got in trouble online because I kept on mentioning with the invasion of France, the German invasion of France in 1940, and we have the French units and the Dutch units and the English units, and I'm not allowed to say English. They're British. And so I said, "Oh man, I'm so sorry. I apologize because some guys were, really justifiably, a little frustrated with that." But I said, you have to please give me, um, excuse me for it because nowhere in all the books, and most of the books I have are for German research, are all in German, and the Germans never called the British die Britannier oder was immer. It was always, das sind die Engländer, das sind England, the English, oder die Kanadier, oder die Schotten. They mention them by name. It wasn't to them the British. To them it was the English, the Scots, the Canadians. So I said, I will definitely change it now to British units, but in the missions and all, the descriptions are going to be like it was. And then I put online, I was trying to find out, the Germans always called them the English. What did the French call them? And I could not find one nice word that the French called the British. So it wasn't the British, it was all these other expletives that I got online. So that was a nice little discussion there on Facebook. So if anybody knows what the French called the British in 1940.
Well, they call them now in a derisive way roast beef, right?
I don't know. I'm not French.
I'm just trying to help you, and I don't know if that's from how old that is. I would expect that it probably precedes the 40s.
Oh, so they even call them now roast beef.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So okay.
So now that we've got that answered, you can finish the game.
I'm sorry?
Now that we have that answered, you can finish the game.
Oh, no, it's coming very well. And Pavlos Germidis did the main for the campaign design and a lot of the internal artwork of the game. He's phenomenal. He's based out of Greece. And Germidis, his grandfather was the Air Force general of Greece during World War II. And his father was Germidis, the finance minister of Greece for many years.
Oh, interesting.
So we won't go good or bad about that, but he was an incredible man and did a lot of the negotiations for. Even he told me some of the stories between Crete and Turkey, and for Crete and a lot of the negotiations going on. Since World War II, the guy was like a genius, So Pavlos is the same way, phenomenal, and working with him has been just so enlightening. Because often when you're playing, and he grew up in France, when you're playing with people, localized people like Polish or Russians, we're working on Stalingrad from the Soviet perspective. They always are, very overly skewed. It's like. No, Victor, a Soviet 1919 or 1918 machine gun is not more powerful than a Panzer battalion. I'm sorry, It's like, oh, but look at the historical accounts. This one machine gun held back 20 tanks. I go, nah.
That's great. Have you seen the movie? T-34?
I have not. Is it good?
It's great. It's great. So,
is it a newer movie or an older movie?
Well, it's a relatively new movie, but it's about a crew, a T-34 crew. As the Germans advanced across Russia, and
with
it's
a really large interior.
Yeah, but very large. But it's a Russian movie, so there's a lot of there's a lot of pride that comes out of it. So it's kind of fun to watch. Yeah,
it's on YouTube.
They probably had working radios in the tank and everything, right?
Yeah, they had smoke too. Yeah.
Oh,
and a pretty girl in the tank with them.
So, what's your favorite war movie, Zulin? What war movies do you go back to?
You know what? My favorite movies are Hallmark Christmas movies. What people misunderstand about people of German heritage and, really the Germans in general is that we're a peace-loving, beer-swilling people that really try to, stay away from war and anything like that. So, I always just grew up watching, Lassie and things like that. We were indoctrinated just about the peaceful aspects of life. Yes. So,
So
but
now you're going to tell me the truth?
You know what? I loved the which one was it with the Dirty Dozen?
Yes.
Yeah.
That to me was phenomenal. Most of the war movies that were put out since World War II, the older ones, were very skewed. It's like I hate the cowboy and Indian movies where the poor Indians just keep on coming around the corner. They just keep on getting shot down. It's not
Right.
what it was like.
Right.
But the modern movie like Das Boot,
Hmm.
I think is phenomenal. Or even the Stalingrad one, where the main German guy's just sitting there and just freezes to death,
Right.
Or unter eigenen Füßen or whatever. I don't know what the English was. The German prisoner of war who escaped from his Siberian prison camp, and took him 2 years going cross country and living with Inuits and everything to get back to Germany.
Wow.
Unter eigenen Fuß, under my own feet. I don't know if it was ever in English, but that's an incredible movie also. But other than that, it's I don't play that many war games, and I don't watch many war movies.
You ever seen Taegukgi?
No.
You got to watch that. Korean War movie.
Oh, really? What's it called?
Taegukgi, the Brotherhood of War. It is two brothers. They're in, South Vietnam. The North invades, and it shows the whole situation of them getting pulled into the war and then separated. It's a fantastic movie. And another one I would say by them is My Way, which is based on a true story. This poor guy ends up getting drafted, basically not drafted, just pulled into the Japanese army.
Mhm.
Then he gets ends up in a battle. He ends up getting a prisoner of war for the Soviets. He gets pressed into service.
I didn't see that movie.
Service for the Soviets, and then he gets captured by the Germans. Gets pressed into service by the Germans. He ends up in Normandy.
Yep.
It's like, damn, based on a true story. It's like, that's a hell of a story right there.
Yeah, I ate at the Japanese restaurant in Germany a few years ago that he then opened after the war. So I'm kidding. That's
You got to give us, if you're going to kid, you got to give us some sort of signal, Luba.
Oh yeah.
You got to, joke coming. Yeah. What about Top Gun? Have you seen Top Gun?
Oh yeah. I mean, I love Tom Cruise. That son of a gun. Even the latest Mission Possible movie he's doing, with his own stunts and all that.
Yeah.
Whatever you say about Tom Cruise, that guy puts out great movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he gets great scripts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he gets access to the best. So
help me to help you.
And he pushes the envelope with everything he does. He did Top Gun 2. He actually did it in jets, so there's no faking the G-forces or anything like that. It's all legit. And then he signed up. Yeah. And then he signed up to do he's going to be the first guy to do a movie in space. He's working out the details right now. The Russians are actually trying to beat him by recruiting somebody now to get them up into space to shoot a movie to beat him.
Wow.
So got to give him credit.
Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Russians are going to put Bradley Cooper in space.
The only thing I'm very disappointed about is that the modern SpaceX spacesuits that they're wearing look like cheesy 1960s spacesuits that they used to have. I mean, they're like exact duplicates. I'm like, damn. They look they look like 19. I mean, I can't.
That's a very Elon Musk thing, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, with that 1950 thing, you expect the 1950 sci-fi to come at them, right? So they're going to be eaten by a giant plant or something.
or they're going to be driving a DeLorean, through space pretty soon, just for the hell of it,
88 miles an hour.
Yeah. Michael J. Fox,
Yeah.
Man, that space is just so much better than being on Earth. So, whoops, sorry about that. We should stay on topic, but no, France 1940 is coming along great. The Conflict of Heroes, we've got quite a few games now. Now that I'm happy with third edition rules, and we're now adding, the biggie is the France also has some very urban areas built up, stone, inner city and everything. And that's just wonderful because now we have roads going through heavy urban areas so that Panza and everything, or American Panza, can just be cruising through cities without having slowed down like normal urban movement combat would do.
Mhm.
But the tanks do not have, we just made the detriment that tanks have for urban combat, that tanks do not get these close combat bonuses for the people who know Conflict Heroes.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden, the tanks have the maneuverability within the inner cities, but they have that huge detriment of infantry and guns can be hidden, placed, and then just ambush you like crazy. So that's something we're going to be playing tomorrow, one of the missions. It's going to be a little more advanced mission, but players are going to be sitting there totally paranoid. And seldom do you have in a lot of war games, where you're going in the city, and it always bothered me. Or ASL, I love ASL, but God, the inner urban combat rules and everything are just so mind-boggling, just overwhelming with all the little details. And we just made one little switch in the rules, and boom. So that's going to be a biggie for France 1940 that I think people really enjoy, is that inner city, making sure that your infantry have to be in full support with your armored units just to take care of ambushes and infantry type of close combat tactics.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's a whole study on mount training and stuff like that because of just what you were talking about. Military operations in urban terrain are very difficult because it is a very claustrophobic environment. Tanks are great from a couple thousand meters out, but once you get them inside of a tight environment, it negates their advantage. And even today, in modern situation, it kind of does, although it's a lot different now because M1s were used in, to great effect in Fallujah, places like that, where they can come in and just knock down a building or something like that if you had insurgents in there. But in World War II, it's a little bit of a different situation. You have to make sure you've got that infantry support for the tanks, and it's going to be interesting to see how you have worked that into the Conflict of Heroes system.
Yeah, well, and just in excuse for Fallujah, though, also you have to realize, I think if you had some very modern opponents that were trained at the same or even just 70% level of the American forces, that would change also. And it's a very interesting topic to look at for what we're doing for modern day Eastern European type of situations, or even anywhere, even with China or any type of modern opponent. And the main doctrine nowadays is you just better have one hell of a good artillery support, because if in modern day combat, really the only good way to do it is just you got to bomb the shit out of it and totally disrupt it before you can even dare to advance in. Because even nowadays, a very small, rather semi-well-armed force can hold an inner city. And it's not like Iraq, where it was just totally demoralized opponent. If you have an opponent that is motivated, and that's just because the Americans are the best in the world right now, large army wise. You can argue that they're smaller tactical units that may be on par, but in general, I think America has such an advantage not only in the capabilities and weaponry, but also the training, morale, etc. Because I don't care what the hell you say, Americans going in are much more gung ho against a Russian opponent than vice versa, because we are the bad, but we are the number one in the world. But if you have a very motivated force in inner city environment, I wouldn't want to root them out, because you know that our opponents somewhere have armed them with incredible whatever missile capabilities, be they anti-air or anti-tank, very easy, very mobile. And if they do it right, they can cause havoc. So that's an interesting type of situation that we're looking at right now also, and trying to figure out how to model for modern day war games.
Well, look at, what you're saying is that motivation there, that will to fight. A good example of that is a game that Harold did, Liberty or Death. It was an American insurgency. We were the ones who were motivated to get our freedom. And we were going up against, at that time, one of the best, if not the best militaries in the world, the British military. So it's kind of what you're talking about here is that modern day switch on what it was back for us in the 1700s, where we were the insurgents and the British military was what we are currently now in modern day America.
Mm-hmm. I think that would have been interesting, because I think we've washed history quite a bit to America's advantage. I think at the time, if the English would have just politically handled things just a little different, that it really could have made a big, huge difference on the ground, and not pushed so many people leaning the way they did then. Yeah. We were just talking about this the other day, my son and I, Gunther, on a game we're working on, that we today, having gamers and people out in the public playing a historical game, how do you portray the game and the people, etc., in a way that they saw themselves with their morals and their norms and how they fit into society, versus how people with today's norms, morals, situational awareness, and everything, trying to play that era without skewing everything with how we as a society and a culture think. And that's very difficult. We were talking about a lot with like the founding fathers, or how America's portrayed, and the Americanism, this big skew going on right now with the cultural skews, and viewing history from today's perspective. And that can be very, very difficult, because it does put a very difficult component on game designers and also on publishers.
Yeah, it shades the view if you use today's sensibilities versus something that was 50, 100, 200, 300 years ago. You can't do that, because it was a different world.
Right. Even if you're trying to skew it in how they were positioned in society and everything, nowadays would be seen as very evil, but at the time it was a norm.
Sure.
And you have to be very careful on how it's portrayed. It's very difficult. Or even like during the Korean War, of if America had used nuclear weaponry with abandon, nowadays it would be looked as totally evil. But at the time it was just, hey, it was an advantage we had. It didn't have that negative stigma. And I'll be interested to see in maybe another few decades how the nuclear bombing in World War II and everything, how that will be portrayed. Yeah. And it's difficult to have to portray games like that. And I'm saying that it came up because we're working now with games to show the history of some of the Indian tribes and the Native American tribes here in the United States. And we've been in contact with a lot of the elders and chiefs from national tribal councils and everything, because even they are trying to find ways to get their young people aware of their history and give them pride and show them what it was like, where they come from, give them a way to want to learn about their history in a way that will get them doing it and wanting to play it. And so we're working with several people on national councils to bring this about. And it is eye-opening on how do you portray this in a way that people in today's society can really understand what they were going through. Because it's so easy to read about history and, we're all raised one way and people just have no idea, like the Cherokee and all that, how incredibly advanced and educated they were at the time and how they got so screwed over, but also their internal conflicts and internal political
their own battles internally,
that they had, which hurt them just as much. And it's just fascinating, but it is tough. It is something that you have to be so careful.
Well, the thing is with that, I think it's the key thing would be to stay true to the history, because the one thing, like you're saying, be careful. One of the things that does drive me a little up the wall with history now is we're having to be careful with it. It's like, what, history is not always pretty, and we have to face those things that happen. And there's a lot of things that happen, good and bad, to everybody, and just face it. Now, obviously you have to be careful how you present it, and you don't want it to be interpreted that you're supporting a view one way or the other. You just say, this is the history and this is the way it was.
Yeah. 100% agree. 100% agree.
But we do have a question up here. There was somebody asking, I forgot, it's up here somewhere, but they were talking about the Agents of Mayhem. Is that going to be brought into another environment?
Yes, we are working on that, because that was actually talking about Fallujah. Agents of Mayhem was originally a 3D Fallujah game that we had worked with. And one of the guys who had played it was a retired lieutenant colonel. And he was then working for Deep Silver Volition, who said, hey, we love that. Could you do it for Agents of Mayhem, which is based on the Saints Row universe, which is a really big video game, pretty popular video game series, one of the best out there, very, sci-fi, modernistic, crazy game. So yes, we are going to be doing that in different eras, and we are going to be using that three-dimensional, that really fun, streamlined system for a probably some type of between World War II and modern day game for the public.
Now, are you going to add in the one character that had a slight gesture and carry that over to each different version? The guy flipping the finger.
Oh.
I think that would be kind of funny to have something, not necessarily that, but some sort of gesture that would carry over that, like that individual character would carry over to each of the different games. So it would be kind of a vibe.
We're looking though, making them true historical, going back into true historical.
Yeah, but still having one guy that kind of stood out.
You know what? We hadn't thought about that, but it would be interesting. But there, even it was difficult, even with the artwork, going back and forth with the company, making sure that the art and everything was true to their vision of the characters.
Yeah.
And that, anytime you're working with a big IP, it literally takes about 4 to 5 times the effort in areas that you would never guess would take all the effort. And it's their vision of the color scheme, or especially when you're going from a video game to a board game, their artists and their art directors are just thinking from a backlit screen environment and trying to work with them to understand, listen, no, you can't make all these dark, moody colors because in a board game, you're at a table with other people and you have to look 3 or 4 feet away and be easily distinguish what you want them to be able to see from that distance. And that's that really takes a very systematic buildup of working with them on how to go about that so that things flow along nicely. Or else, I mean, when we first started this a few years ago, we were working with the video game company, and literally we were going through the same artwork 4 or 5 times, and our artists were always just being nitpicked to death. And until we finally had a very systematic way of presenting new art with the right verbiage. And, it isn't, hey, we want to get your idea. It was, this is why the artwork is this way. The benefits, the pros, and the cons, please approve. And that once we went in that direction, it was so much better,
Yeah.
And it made it a lot easier for us. So in wargaming, there's an interesting discussion I saw online. What is the future and the state of war games? And the general view was, that was in the decline. I have to say, I'm so opposite polar, because the wargaming industry is just growing like crazy, and it's so yet many young people. And I think a lot of people who see it declining are the people who are playing the old school war games with their thick rule books and their tons of charts, and they're the guys who love to be sitting there planning out all their moves and having the other guy sit there for half an hour while they're doing stuff. Yeah, that type of war game I think is disappearing, but wargaming in general is going crazy. It's just skyrocketing, because on general, we sell in a 2-year period when we come out with a new game. If we don't sell at least 15 to 20,000 copies of a war game, something is wrong. If we don't have Asmodee UK order at least 5 to 6 to 700 games in the first iterations of getting a war game out, something's wrong. And that then doesn't include, with all the other distributors worldwide in Russia and Japan and America, of course. So wargaming, from our standpoint, is going crazy because it's a new young audience coming in. We have a very educated DOD and military, and I don't know a military guy who doesn't play video games and war games and all that, and they're stuck, for weeks at a time somewhere, bored to hell. And what are they doing? They're online playing games. They're playing Call of Duty and Company of Heroes and all these phenomenal games. And they're so easy to transfer over to board games, because board games are...
Let me ask you a question. Do you have a different, as you talk about the breadth of the hobby growing, young people coming in, do you have a different definition of war game now than you did 20 years ago?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, the war games that we were playing, even the easy ones like Richthofen's War or Panzer Leader, or, when I was going through college, we were walking around with our tome of ASL and, or War at Sea, or, those times have changed because in general, our brains have now been reconditioned. We think different. We process information different. Even guys of our generation who learned the old school way don't have the patience and the time to want to do that, because we're being hit by information so quick, and our brains are getting used to quick synaptic type of decision cycling and all that, as what we call our dopamine cycle. And so, yes, those old school games are great for guys who grew up with that, and that's their thing. But anybody who's playing computer games, or like, me with Age of Empires with 6 guys or whatever, the games where you have to sit more than 5 minutes without taking active actions, several of them already, they're dead. They're not dead, but they will be. A small audience. You don't have huge audiences for those because you need, and that's why one of the main reasons Conflict of Heroes 3rd edition, that dopamine cycle, between the 2nd, 3rd edition, and I've never really talked about that with anybody online or anywhere, but one of the major focuses we did that was that we increased the decision cycle. We doubled it. And the decision cycle is decision, anticipation, resolution. That cycle is what pops off the dopamines and the other type of brain chemicals that make you feel great, that gets that game addiction, that addiction of wanting to do this over and over again, the beautiful addiction, gambling addiction that we have. And if you can get that addiction cycle into any type of game, that's what keeps people going. And trust me, having a slow addiction cycle, that doesn't do it for the brain as the faster ones. So the young kids who are playing all these games, it's just they're being fired left and right, left and right, left and right. And that's why they're so addicted to the on-screen games. And the on-screen games is about colors, sounds, and quick synaptic just reactions. How do we bring this type of brain reaction into a board game? And that's where we really, it's a different cycle. And that's why board games are very difficult to design, to do it correctly, to get that addiction. And that's why Conflict of Heroes, the 3rd edition, it used to be, the main thing is you do something, you decide to do something, the anticipation will be okay, and then boom, resolution. And where people get it wrong is they think that once something happens, it's like the slot machine is a thing I always bring up. When does your brain start popping off? Is you're pulling the lever on the slot machine, you see, there's one diamond comes up. The second, the third, bing, 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 I won $1 million. And people think the brain goes, wow, I just won $1 million. That's when it goes off. No, that's when it crashes. It crashes.
Yeah.
It goes off when you decide to pull the lever. And then win or lose, it crashes, and you want to pull that lever to get that the brain to get that dopamine cycle going again.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of designers don't understand human psychology and brain psychology and addictive psychology, and those are the games that are not successful. So with Conflict Heroes, the 3rd edition, we added that whole. Now every time you take an action, you have to see if your unit is spent. So before you take the action, the tension. And this is totally outside of the whole dopamine cycle we have of the combat and getting on the combat field what you want. Now it's, will my unit be spent? Do I use my command points to bring my probability down to keep them fresh? Mm-hmm. And we added a whole nother cycle in there. And we found that, wow, and our sales are, even better than they were before worldwide. And we were very lucky with that. And people go, it's stupid, but it's also brain psychology of our target audience.
No.
Well, 3rd edition is great.
Thank you. But people have to realize that we did it consciously to increase dopamine cycles. Instead of activating one unit, having 7, and being stuck old school, we got rid of it. Now, every time it's your turn, every 10 seconds it's your turn, you make a decision to do something, but you're not only looking at from the combat what it can help you militarily, but now you're so worried what it's going to do psychologically to that unit. Are they going to be cognitively suppressed? And that can mean anything to, they're walking across the field, they hear some gunfire and they take a knee to set the situation. Well, when you're a gamer in the old days, it's like, that's stupid. They're on a field, they're going to keep moving. Guess what? No. The stupidest time, guys are going to take the knee and go, well, wait a minute, we better look at this a little, unless you have some guy behind him who's totally gung-ho and saying, move you. So there's a historical, or there's a reason for doing it, but then the other side is, why did we really push for that? Is we were trying to figure out how can we bring the psychological diction, the cycle sped up. And so most of our games are this way. Even like our Birth of America, our Vikings, 878 Vikings and all that. We on purpose made it that no matter whose battle is, everybody's still even if it's my buddy's turn, I'm still rolling my own dice and making my own decisions.
Yeah. Everybody gets a little piece.
Everybody's got to keep that going. So games that are still going the old school way, that audience is not going to grow. It's still going to grow, but it's not going to grow as quick as the modern game designs that are coming out right now that are just incredible.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the crew that likes some of the games that we grew up on, right? I don't think there's any problem with that. More power to them. But frankly, the influx of young people into the hobby, those people that already play strategic games but want to figure out more about what we were about and want to understand history, that group has a different view. I absolutely agree. Now, Uwe, it's midnight where you are. So I feel first of all, I'm appreciative that you spent an hour with us this late.
I slept for 2 hours. I woke up right before this.
You're a beast. You're a beast. So I'm very much appreciative and appreciative that you're involved with the convention. So thanks for that. And Mo, we should let this man sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Harold, I do want to say I love playing the old games. All I'm saying is in the modern marketplace, with just the way our brains are being conditioned.
Yeah.
You see it in the comic, you even see it in the TV and everything. The news cycles, they used to get into in-depth. Yeah, there's still a lot of in-depth, but all the popular ones, it's just little segments of 30 to a minute, and then they're going on to the next thing. So I didn't want to disparage because I love War at Sea. I love playing AS. I still play all these myself.
Yep.
Sure.
But not as much as the modern game designs.
No, you and I love those old games, and we love the crew that plays those old games, right? Yep. But we've had over the last few days, we've had a lot of discussion about that life's changing very quickly, right? And we're seeing an influx of different people that are defining the hobby differently, and that's okay, right? That's also a cool thing as well. So,
but I've got it for the effort. If I can sell a game that sells on average between 20,000 copies when I release it versus 3,000 copies, I've got to go after the big market. And then the popular games are getting 60,000 copies. So, it's just modern psychology. So I'm not disparaging it. I'm saying as a businessman and as a designer who wants to have a game that sells a lot so I get a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you can sit in your bunker.
Pardon me?
So you can sit in your bunker and make evil plans like you were doing earlier. But we are going to wrap it up here. This is the end of day 2 here at the San Diego Historical Games Convention, the virtual convention, first ever that Harold has put together here. And we've had a really great time. We've had some great guests, and we really appreciate all of you. We will be over on the Discord channel if you guys are on Discord. I know Uwe was talking about getting on Discord. You can join the Discord right now, and we'll be on the bar area in the Mo and Harold chat area. We have a after show chat every night. So come on and join us. But we really do appreciate everybody for being on tonight, Harold. It's been a great con.
Ein Prosit zur Gemütlichkeit. Ein Prosit.
Exactly. Thank you for doing this. This is the last night that we're going to be together. And and I love being sung out by Uwe. But you've been great. Thank you for your support, and hope to see you around. But this is the last convention, Mo and Harold of the week, and once again, it's been great. Thank you.
Definitely has been, and we'll look forward to the next one. We will be doing another convention sometime down the road. We don't know when, but it will come. And everybody who missed out this time, make sure you sign up next time a lot faster so that way you can enjoy it and join in on all the fun. But thanks a lot, everybody, for joining in tonight. We really appreciate it. Everyone, have a great night.